Hi guys, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you a bit about next week, week 5, and I want to specifically go over some of the section of 10.4 that you're going to need to be able to work through and review and respond to that text at the end with a quiz that you're going to take. So I'm going to look here at modules, and I'm going to go down to week 5. And here we are at ELA. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this external link, okay, this chain link for text features for revolution and democracy. So here we go. All right, so you're going to see here that it's going to start at 10.04 text features, revolution and democracy. All right, so if we look here at this first section, it's called the rainbow scene around the world. Okay, so actually what this is going to be talking to you about is the first shot that was fired in the American Revolutionary War. And it was called the gunshot heard around the world. And it was called that because it had such a big impact on the events in the United States. So you're going to go through and read that, and then just read the write about it here. This isn't something you have to do in your interactive notebook. It is an optional activity, but just read through it, okay? So some of the objectives you're going to learn in the lesson are you're going to be able to use different strategies and look to determine the meaning of unknown words and phrases. You're going to be using a lot of context clues, okay, to help you figure out unknown words and phrases. You're also going to use information from multiple print and digital sources to be able to locate answers or solve a problem. You are going to be able to speak and write knowledgeably about a topic using information from different sources. And we're going to conduct a research writing using different sources to build knowledge about a topic, gather information from print and digital sources, and be able to write a multi-paragraph informative essay that will be written for week 6, not week 5. Okay, so that we'll be building on that. You'll be learning about that in week 5, but we'll be actually looking to write and submit that for week 6. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go back over to the top here, and I'm going to move through to the next slide. All right, word wisdom, highlighting hyperbole. All right, so this phrase, the gunshot heard around the world, is an example of a hyperbole. It's a type of figurative language, and I know you guys had heard about this earlier in the school year when we were working with figurative language, all right? There's a really neat video that's gonna help you learn more about different types of figurative language. It's gonna go through some examples, so be sure that you watch that video here. Okay, so down here, Darla doesn't understand what the gunshot heard around the world means. So, because a gunshot can't be heard around the whole world. So then she remembers a poem that Carolina taught her. When you see an unknown word, there is no time to pout. Look at the sounds and syllables and bring your toolbox out. So that's going to lead us here to this box of information. So you guys are going to scroll through, look at the context clues toolbox, read through this important information here, and continue reading through here. You're going to see this text trowel. Guys, a trowel is a gardening tool. It's used for like digging up soil. So like if you like are planting flowers, you know, you kind of turn over the soil and get your plants in, kind of spread some of those little roots out and stuff, and then cover it back up with soil. So it helps your plants grow. Well, when you dig through the soil, you know, you're doing that so that you can nicely, you know, get that plant in the ground. Well, a text trowel is like digging deeper into the text. So what you do is you dig deeper into the text and you look for clues to help you determine meanings of words and phrases. So that's why they kind of use that little analogy there. So it's asking you what parts of the text give hints about the meaning of the words. That's why you dig deeper to try to find out. All right, so here you're going to look and read through this information here, and then they're going to talk to you about a literal leveler. Since a gunshot cannot be heard around the world, what could it mean? Well, this phrase is an example of a hyperbole, okay? So it means that everyone in the world heard about the gunshot and the American Revolutionary War. So that's what it actually means there. All right, and then the sentence screwdriver. Okay, so sometimes when we use a screwdriver, we put in a screw because we want to hold something in place, right? Make sure we've got a nice secure fit. So here we're trying to see if we can look here at this analogy, and if we can, or this figure of language, actually, this hyperbole, and take it out and instead substitute in this other phrase that's in bold. So Many people still say, and they're going to take out that this was the gunshot heard around the world, and they're going to say instead, many people still say everyone in the world heard about the gunshot in the American Revolutionary War because people all around the world wanted to know how this war would end. Okay, so you want to read through that important information. And then here, there's a context clues graphic organizer. Be sure you read through and look at that example of figurative language, those unfamiliar words, context clues that were used to try to help figure out the meaning, and then a conclusion that was arrived at, which meant that people all around the world heard and knew about the war, and then the correct answer. This expression is an example of hyperbole. It helps to explain how important the event was to people all over the world, and this expression means people all over the world were paying attention to the American Revolution. Okay. They give you some tips here, okay, a tip about the figurative language. It can be tricky, so you want to make sure that you try to go through the text very carefully to try to find meanings of unknown words and phrases. And then there's a try it here. Just read through it. You don't have to actually copy a table in your notebook or on a piece of lined paper, but do make sure that you read through these examples here. All right, and then it'll go ahead and help you give you the answer here to the figurative language. Angry like a hornet's nest is one phrase of figurative language here, and at the drop of a hat. So as you read through, try to figure out what those mean, and then they'll give you the information there to help you better figure it out if you're still not sure. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, reading corner, very visual. All right, so you guys are going to be looking here at this slide, and it's going to start talking to you about some digital text features that are used to be able to locate and find important information. So you want to go ahead and read through this, and then they do have a text version here that shows you some information that you might find as well as part of the text features. And then I'm going to go back to the show image. Then there was something else I wanted to show you guys up here. You see this little drawer? This is your resources. If you click on that, right here, digital text features. The resources allows you to go in and find all different resources that they're using throughout these week's modules in ELA. So they've got some examples here. So this is another worksheet here that can help give you an idea. So there's video, there's animation, sound, interactive elements. So if you guys want, you can go into your resources and be able to click on that as well. All right. So I just wanted to show you where that was at. The share it. Okay, this is an optional activity. If this is something that you want to do, just read through it. But again, that's one of those optional activities. Okay, moving along. Colonial men. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and read through here. Sometimes the answer to a question is clearly stated, but other times the answer to the question is not clearly stated. So good readers have to use evidence from the text, and they've got to be able to make inferences. They've got to be able to use their own background knowledge. They've got to use information from the text and be able to arrive at conclusions, be able to make those inferences and give reasons to support. They're going to show you an example here in the try it. Just read through it. You don't have to actually draw it out, but I do need you to pay close attention because it's going to give you a question. And this question is, how were the roles of men similar or different in the New England, Middle, and Southern colonies? So that's the question. And then you have a text 1 and text 2 to refer to, and then answer the question. All right. So as we scroll down, men of the colonies, you guys are going to want to read through this very carefully, pay close attention to the vocabulary. Click on that next slide. Here, there's a video. You'll want to watch this video. It's going to give you some very helpful information. Okay. And then down here, this is really important because this is going to give you examples of text-based responses. Which one is the better response? They have exemplar 1 and exemplar 2 and the answer. So they give you this, this sandwich to look at. So it's important to remember that when you are responding to text and you have a body paragraph, you need to have that introduction sentence. You've got to have your supporting details. They show 3 here, and then a conclusion statement, okay, or sentence. So these paragraphs answer a question using details from the text. So again, when you think of them like a sandwich and you look at those details, they all help to build and support your answer to the question. So there are two exemplars you're going to look at, and it's going to ask you, again, how are the roles of men similar or different in the New England middle and southern colonies? So here is the exemplar one. You're going to read through that, and then you're going to see, oh, does that really answer the question? When you think about how it was asked, look at how it starts out. Everyone had to work hard in the colonies. That's pretty general. It's not very specific in answering the question. Then we look at exemplar two. Whether they lived in the New England, middle, or southern colonies, men had similar roles. Then look, they start with a nice transition. First of all, men had to work outside the home. So you're going to read through the rest of it. I was just getting you started there. But you want to really look for whether or not the response actually ties back to answer the question. All right. And then, of course, it's going to give you the answer that exemplar two was the stronger response because it clearly answered the question. It supports the answer with only the most important and relevant points from the text. It presents these points in a logical way and uses transitions to connect ideas. And it concludes with a sentence that restates the answer. We want to make sure that we are really focusing on that prompt, answering it directly, and restating that answer. So these are the important things to really consider to have a really strong response. All right. Next slide is going to talk about revolution and democracy. All right. So the American Revolutionary War changed the government, politics, and borders of the colonies and turned them into the United States. So you're going to scroll through and you're going to learn about two important texts: Causes of the American Revolution and The Birth of a Democracy, and some of their digital text features. You're going to see this, try it here. This is optional. I would like you to read carefully these texts and pay close attention. Go ahead, you can take notes on both texts because it might help you for your essay for the following week, for week 6. But remember, you guys were working with that graphic organizer. So there may be some important information that you're going to want to build upon from that graphic organizer that you submitted in 10.3. Take some notes, be able to think about adding that for your actual writing of the essay for week 6. So there's important information here. This scavenger hunt is optional. If that's something that you want to do, you can click on that and do that if that's an activity that you would like to do. But down here is where this important text is. So the first one, Causes of the American Revolution, it's going to start with a video. So you need to watch the video, pay close attention there. And then it's going to talk about founding the colonies, and then the next slide is going to talk about the French and Indian War. That should be familiar to you because we read about that in social studies. If you guys remember, in social studies chapter 10, when we read the tensions grow between the colonies and Great Britain, we learned about a lot of these factors that were contributors and causes to the American Revolution. Taxes, all the taxes and the taxation without representation. So you're going to read about that. There's important information there. The protests that went on, read that slide. The Intolerable Acts, we read about that in chapter 10. So again, you're building upon some of that background knowledge you have, but pay close attention, read through this slide. And let me go on. And then Growing Unity and the Continental Congress. Read through that slide carefully. And then Revolutionary War. All right, so this slide is going to go through the Revolutionary War and how it began when the British Army confronted militia at Lexington. And then down here you have this timeline, but it's like a cause and effect timeline because it tells you at the beginning in 1754 to 1763, that French and Indian War was what started, and then it led to the Sugar Act, which led to the Stamp Act, which led to the Townshend Acts, and then the Boston Massacre, leading on to the Boston Tea Party, and then eventually those coercive acts, and that ultimately led to the American Revolution. So gives you the timeline for that and those important dates there, okay, and the causes. The next slide you want to scroll down to is the text for The Birth of a Democracy. So they've got the events leading to the American Revolution here, okay, in more of a vertical timeline. And then they do show a text version if you want to look at that. but the image really gives you a nice, colorful and clear idea of what happened with the French and Indian War, leading up through and down to the coercive acts. So then you are going to scroll through all of these slides, pay close attention here to the American Dream, read through that, and then taxation without representation, plans for a democracy, read through that carefully, and then the Revolutionary War, drafting the Declaration. We remember reading about that, where they came together in 1776. So you've got Thomas Jefferson there and Benjamin Franklin. So you've got the delegates gathering around and they're drafting and working on the Declaration. Delegates vote, read through that. Passed in Congress, read that section carefully. And then it's going to wrap up with an American history video. So be sure you watch that. And again, just go through and take notes on these important slides about these two texts. Before you go to the next slide, just make sure that you read through the instructions, use the text Causes of American Revolution and Birth of a Democracy, and then you're gonna look at these digital text features to answer each question. So you'll make sure you do that before you go on to the next slide. Then we come to the Writer's Workshop, Inspiring Introductions. All right, so in this Try It, they're talking to you about how your plan is starting to come together. Again, as I mentioned, in 10.3, you have already submitted your graphic organizer for this essay that you're getting ready to write. So what you want to do is hang on to that graphic organizer, because you're going to refer to that, you're going to need that to help you. So as you create your rough draft, you're using the notes from that graphic organizer to help you start writing your introduction, and then the body paragraphs, and then the conclusion. You'll turn the notes from the introduction section of your graphic organizer into full sentences. And down here, this is going to talk about the introduction. So there's a video on writing your introduction that you're going to want to watch and pay close attention to. And then there's a checklist. It's going to help you to make sure that you've remembered everything you need to include in that introduction paragraph. So here are those writing prompts again, and I know that you guys have talked about those already in 10.3, and you're working on your graphic organizer that you submitted in 10.3, but here again, just to revisit, you're choosing what you're responding to, either 1, 2, 3, or 4. Do you want to write about a famous leader other than George Washington? Okay, pick another famous leader who contributed to the American Revolutionary War. Or if you wanted to choose a famous event, how did a famous event change the course of the American Revolutionary War? 3, the role of women. How did women make a significant contribution to the American Revolutionary War? And 4, the role of allies. How did the Allies help the 13 colonies win the American Revolutionary War? So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. This introduction video, you're going to want to click on that and watch through this video, because it's going to give you important reminders about writing your sentences for your introduction paragraph. And then down here, there is a checklist. So it's just a reminder. You want to make sure you check off these items after you write your introduction paragraph. Do you have a hook? Okay, or that grabber statement that pulls the reader in, grabs that reader's attention, makes them want to read your essay, makes them want to find out more about your topic. The bridge, remember that bridge is connecting the hook to the controlling idea. Your controlling idea is your thesis statement. It's your main idea statement, and this is informative. So you're connecting that. So in the bridge, you're going to continue to build on some sentences that connect the hook to that main idea statement. It can even build some background knowledge for the reader, and make sure your first sentence is indented. And we've talked about that throughout the year, so you guys know you always indent the first sentence of a new paragraph. So there's your checklist there. And then I wanted to go ahead and just show you something before we move on. There's a text that you guys are going to see, and that is the American Revolutionary War text. This was in Fathers of America from this week as like an optional but encouraged reading. Well, here they're talking about some important information. So this is you're gonna want this to be a text that you definitely use as one of your resources. Here, they're gonna talk about events leading to the revolution. instrumental people. So they're going to talk not only about George Washington, but they do mention Paul Revere and how he traveled great distances and alerted the Americans of the incoming British forces before two major battles. So if you're thinking about an important person that you want to write about other than George Washington, you might want to use some important information there. Okay, and that text continues up here. And then let me scroll down to the second page. Roles of women. That was the third choice of the prompts. So there's important information here in the text that you would be able to use if you chose number 3, the roles of women, as your question to answer for your essay. And then American allies. There's some information here about allies, particularly France, and how it was one of America's greatest allies in the war. So you could read through that, read through more about France and how it was a strong ally during the American Revolutionary War. So there's important information there. So I just wanted to take the time to show you this text because I think it will be very helpful to you in whichever question you chose, 1, 2, 3, or 4, in helping you build some information. All right, I'm going to go back now to the slides. So we're going to move on. That was introduction. Now we come to the middle and endings. So remember that you want to write in your own words. You want to be able to fully answer the prompt and include important information from those body paragraphs, including quotes. But you're also going to want to be able to put things in your own words. So here is a video that helps you be able to paraphrase ideas that you've learned through your reading, okay, and research. So before you dive into writing the rough draft, that you want to make sure that you watch this video because it's going to talk about ways that you can take information and put them in your own words and also help you to quote properly, okay? And then you're going to scroll down here and look at paraphrasing skills. Help Darla with her body paragraph. Go ahead and read through that information. And then here they talk about this bodybuilding checklist. So as you're getting ready to take those notes from your graphic organizer and you've written your introduction, now you're getting ready to draft your body paragraphs and conclusion. So here they're going to talk about making sure that you've done the following things. So let me just go on to this first slide here. So you want to make sure you've selected at least one quote and include the headings you planned when you were grouping your body paragraphs. Watch this video. So there's another video here on writing your best body paragraphs. It'll give you some helpful information there. Use the notes from your graphic organizer to help you write full sentences, okay, that will become part of your body paragraphs. And then you're going to use bodybuilding checklists to make sure you have a topic sentence, evidence, and a closing sentence for each of your body paragraphs. Now, guys, I know this says 4 to 6 body paragraphs. You are not writing 4 to 6 body paragraphs. You're not. You can write 2 to 3 body paragraphs, okay, just as we have in the classroom, just as we've done in school. You don't have to write 4 to 6 body paragraphs. So don't worry about that last part right there, okay? I want to move on now to the bodybuilding checklist. All right, so as always, you indent the first sentence in a paragraph. You want to include a topic sentence and a closing sentence. Include at least one quote in each body paragraph. Make sure you cite correctly. So make sure you put those beginning quotes and end quotes around what is directly cited from the reading. Use strong vocabulary. Remember to use correct capitalization and punctuation. Use some variety of with sentence beginnings and then a variety in sentence structure. And then remember those transition words. You guys have a list of transition words. And then, oh, also I want to show you here in the resources. If you guys go down here, I think it's the oh yeah, here it is. Transition words anchor chart. Guys, there's a whole list of transition words. All you have to do is go in the resource section and you'll see it. And that's going to help you write your essay. So I strongly encourage you to click on that. So there's information on examples. That'll be real important. Adding on the link. There's a lot of good transition words here. Obviously concluding at the end of your essay in your conclusion paragraph. So there's just a lot of good ones. So this resource is there for you and I want you to know that. So that's why I wanted to take the time to click on it and show you that. All right, back to the information here. All right, so let's move on. Conclusion. You're going to conclude your research essay, okay, by making sure that You remind your reader of your controlling idea in those main topics. There is another video that's going to help you be able to organize your ideas so that your concluding sentences help to summarize your essay. So be sure to watch this video as well. And then write out your conclusion in full sentences and use the conclusion checklist to make sure you've got all that important information that you need. So I'm going to move over now to the conclusion checklist. You want to make sure that you've done the following: restate your controlling idea, write a closing statement, and make sure that first sentence is indented as well. All right. Then read through the reminders and conclusions that they have here. So just make sure that you read through all of those, reflect and review. And then here is a helpful writer's publishing checklist. This will be important information that you guys will use that as you go through and you write your essay. So again, guys, the essay is not going to be due for week 5. It's going to be due that following week, week 6, but you've already submitted the graphic organizer. So I do want to encourage you to go ahead and start on your rough draft. And all of this information that I've just gone through in the slides gives you some very helpful tips in helping you get started writing your rough draft, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and scroll through all of that and just make sure that you read all of this information as well in the checklist, okay? All right, I'm gonna go to the next slide. All right, exit card, share it. This is an optional activity, just so you know. You're going to read through the rough draft of your introduction and conclusion out loud to a friend or family member. Again, that's optional. If you want to and you want to get like a family member's feedback, that's fine. So here's the information here if you want to do that. And then what did I learn? So we're wrapping up lesson summary, okay? So you're gonna go ahead and read through this lesson summary slide and go ahead and complete the self-check review. There's instructions here, so go ahead and select the best answer for each question. And then that's going to lead us up to the what is my assignment? Okay, so time to show what you know. You guys are going to get ready to complete the 10.04 text features revolution and democracy quiz. So again, just make sure you've read through the entire lesson. Take notes on some of those important slides that I had mentioned to you. Look back through those 4 options for your prompt. Look at all of the videos that explain about the introduction, body, and conclusion paragraphs. So look through everything in the lesson. And then when you are ready, you're going to go ahead and take the quiz. So I'm just going to go ahead. Oh, I want to go back. Hold on just a second. All right, here's the what is my assignment. Down here is where I meant to go, to the next slide. Okay, that's going to lead us to the quiz. All right, so guys, there is going to be one question about paraphrasing. So make sure you watch that video and pay close attention. There's going to be one question about quoting correctly from the text. So be sure that you pay close attention to the slides about that. 4 comprehension questions, 2 on figurative language, and then 2 about text features. So this is 10 questions. There were 2 points each. You get 3 attempts, as like all the other quizzes that you've taken. You want to make sure you read through very, very carefully, okay? Watch any videos. Don't skip these in the quiz. Make sure you read through everything carefully. Watch the video, and then again, use those really good process of elimination strategies for multiple choice quiz taking, and go through and answer these questions very carefully, okay? See some of these text features they include here in the map. Pay close attention, all right? And then you're going to use the information from the text feature and then answer the question. And then you have some more reading here. And then you're going to go through, read very carefully, especially guys, these answer choices that have longer responses where there are passages that summarize ideas from text. You got to really read through them carefully, okay? And then use that process of elimination. Question 4, okay? So you're going to have some figurative language you got to pay close attention to, all right? And then quoting correctly, reading very carefully through the text and answering the questions. Okay, and then just go through. There's another question about the figurative language, and then another question about paraphrasing there. So, of course, those may be in different order, but it gives you an idea of what the quiz is going to cover. So you want to make sure that you take those notes as you're reading through the slides for 10.4 text features, revolution and democracy. And that wraps up the lesson and the slides for that. So I just wanted to go through and explain all of that to you and show you where you could find some of those helpful resources. And I'm going to have an open ELA Zoom session on Tuesday from 12 to 1. So if you guys have any questions, come on in and I'll be happy to chat with you and help work through any questions that you have about the ELA assignments for week 5. All right. Hope you guys have a great week and thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.